Hi guys, welcome back to part 3 of how to replace the bearing in an old Black & Decker router. I have here the new top bearing that's going to be installed. I'm going to start off the installation job by reassembling this armature arrangement here. So that goes back in there, the switch goes back into here, so, and the coil will go back in as well. So I'm just going to tighten up this bolt here, this nut here on the switch, or on off switch. Okay, I'll just tighten that up with a spanner. Okay, so there's our on-off switch. Next I'm going to we need to be careful, we need to make sure these wires are held right out of the way too. We don't want them getting in the way of the armature when it's spinning, because that would be bad news. So just to make sure that they are pushed right out of the way there. So I'm just going to bolt the stator back on. Again, this is where having the alignment marks help us. Now we've got the new bearing here, and we're going to put that onto the armature. You can check the armature winding there, make sure, or the windings, make sure the windings look okay, and also the commutator, make sure that's in good nick, no great big grooves in it, which there isn't. So basically I'm just going to push the new bearing onto the armature here. There it goes, just on there nicely. I'm just going to drop that down into the router casing here, and it should just go in. There we are, it's just going in there. We next put on the outer casing, got our alignment marks there that we had on last time, go on there, and we'll screw that together. That in there. There's a little bit of backwards forward slop on that, but that's going to be taken up when we put our keyway in. And our dummy nut. Oops. I think this keyway is actually by far the trickiest part of the whole job. And now the nut on there. When that's pulled up tight, it'll pull the armature against the shaft, against a flange there. So just quickly tighten that up. and that gets rid of any play we had in there. We can now put the collet back together. Now we need to put the brushes in. As I said before, I did mark the brushes. This one goes here and it faces this way. If you put them in around the wrong way, you get a lot of extra sparking. The brushes have to wear to suit the commutator again. So it's well worth marking it. And there we have it, an assembled router with its bearings replaced. Now, before we fire it up and see how it goes, we'll have to do some basic electrical tests to make sure that it's safe to do so. Right, now that we've reassembled the router, it's time to do some safety testing on it before we plug it in and see whether it works or not. First thing to make sure is that we turn the router on. Make sure that it's if it's not turned on, then we're not going to be testing this here. First thing we want to make sure is that the earth pin of our plug is connected right all the way through onto the metal parts, exposed metal parts of the router here. This is not a double insulated router, so we need to have a good earth on there. So I just connected on there and I'm getting 0.3 of an ohm, just over 0.3 of an ohm, which is good. I'll go on to the spindle. Onto the just various parts of the chassis, and I'm getting the same reading. So I've got a good earth on here. That means if anything goes faulty in here, that I'll be protected from any electrical, any shock I may get. The chassis of this thing here is grounded, and the shock won't be passed through to me. It'll basically just blow the fuse. Next we're going to do insulation testing, and that involves clipping the meter onto the phase and neutral of my plug here, clipping onto the chassis, and push the button on my meter here. And this is giving me a reading about 68 meg ohms. So that's showing me the insulation is good on here. It's not breaking down. The this meter is special in that when I push the button here, it's sending 500 volts between these two here, and if the insulation is poor, then it will break it down. So a standard multimeter will not do this, will not do the insulation testing. However, a standard multimeter will do the resistance testing for testing your earth. If your router is double insulated, it'll have it written on it, or it'll have two square boxes, one inside the other, symbol on it, which is the double insulation symbol, and that will mean that the chassis should not be grounded. Right, well, we're going to plug this here in now and see if it runs. Here we go. Well, hopefully that will last me another few years, so I hope that's been useful to you, and we'll catch you later. Cheers, guys.